Well, it wasn't for nothing. Yeah, we're live. I'll make sure we're having audio. I don't think the audio is working again. Oh, Doom says he can hear you now. Okay, I'm just making sure. Okay, so hold on. I'm working. Doom can hear the music. He can't hear you still. He can't hear you specifically. Baker remains silent. I have no idea what would have changed. Yeah, it worked. It worked last Friday. Well, I can hear the mic because I'm on Skype with you.
So I guess let me know if you can hear me now, possibly. Test, test. Yeah, it looks like I'm in there. Yeah, it seems to be reacting, so. Okay, so let me add some people to the call here.
Baker's on now, and the music.
Okay, yeah, I changed a setting in OBS to just like force my mic to get added. So I don't know if maybe it lost some settings or was just freaking out.
Did you hear my suggestion earlier, Baker?
Sorry, what was that?
I said I need to come to Missouri, and I'll just live in your guys' apartment, and I'll just cook for you. So
in
none
the
of
office?
You guys, so none of you guys ever have to go out to Sonic.
All right.
I'll make hamburgers for you.
Okay, well let's put them on the call here and
let them hear the suggestion.
Yes.
Okay.
So Aaron should be coming up soon here.
Yes.
Hello. Am I
Hello.
heard?
You are heard.
Awesome.
How are you today, Aaron?
I'm doing pretty well.
I'm Kyle.
Kyle has been helping us out. Yeah, I mean, I don't know how much, since Aaron is newer around here, I don't remember how much I explained to him, but Kyle's helping us out with a bunch of kind of like PR, streaming, this, that, and the other. And he, well, I guess we never really introduced ourselves, but on this stream anyway, I think most people know what's up, but yeah, Kyle has his own kind of YouTube and streaming stuff, and particularly he does a lot of cooking. So now that Coby's on too, right?
Yep.
Hey, Coby, how are you?
What's up, man?
Not too much. I jokingly made the suggestion but I could just come and live in your guys' apartment/workspace and just cook for you guys.
I think Baker would probably appreciate that a lot.
Yeah, like free rent in exchange for food prep.
Yeah, something like that. I'd feel bad if I didn't pay rent too, though.
Oh, well. Yeah, it would be an interesting life for you, I'm sure.
Yeah, probably. I've led an interesting life up to this point, so it wouldn't really be a deviation from the norm.
So, I'm just gonna start drawing. If you guys, I don't know, if you want to ask, since Coby hasn't been on a stream in a while, he's just been working a lot and not streaming. If you want to chat it up a little bit, you guys, or if Aaron wants to talk about what he's working on, I don't really have a plan. We're just kind of playing it by ear.
I'm going to turn on the fans quickly because I'm hot as hell.
Is it getting hotter outside? Maybe. I think he just put his mic down.
Well, we haven't really talked a whole lot about the programming angle of things, so if you guys, I guess when Coby comes back, want to talk about what you guys have been doing lately in the game?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, well, I think everyone kind of knows what I've been working on from the streams, but I think I was sort of explaining when the mic wasn't working. But Aaron, do you want to talk about what we just discussed that you were going to be working on over the next couple weeks?
Two big things that I'm going to be working on are, like, I'm going to be starting to work on XP and leveling first and foremost. And then once that's done, I'm going to start moving on to the skill tree, which I actually do not know too much about, but I'll learn that as we go along.
Yep.
And what about
stuff.
What about Coby?
Coby, are you back now?
Mm-hmm. Yes, I'm eating though, so it's probably going to sound horrific. Sorry in advance.
We have sound now. That's all that matters.
Even if it's crunching on chicken tenders. Yeah, so one of the big things that I'm working on that has been on the back burner forever is a pretty large-scale systematic change of the underlying physics engine, which runs Delver's Drop. And this is one of those things that, like, we've sort of kind of known that we probably ought to change for a long time. But it was such a large change and totally breaks the game for quite a while once it occurs that we've just been putting it off and off and off and off. And, you know, now that we haven't sent out a build in so long and people already kind of forgotten about us, it's the perfect time to totally break the game, right? So that is what I'm doing. And the rationale behind it is, you know, previously we're using continuous integration in the physics, so that some people probably know what that is, some people don't, which is fine, Danny. It's how you run. That's how, like, real true physics work. It's a representation of time across the simulation. Is effectively what it comes down to. But anyways, so that's cool because that makes things physicsy. The problem is a lot of things that we want to do, a lot of things that we ought to do, a lot of things that we want to do or need to do in Delver's Drop aren't actually like real world physics-y. You know, they're not something that physics simulator is necessarily designed to do by default because, you know, they break the laws of physics constantly. And so for the longest time we were just, like, you know, hacking around the system to try and get some of these things implemented, and the result is, like, some things that don't work like we want, some things that we can't make that we want to make, and then a lot of bugs that are really frustrating as well. So anyways, the primary switch is over to a more discrete set of resolvers for the physics system, such that we can do more gameplay-y things that aren't actually realistic in terms of the simulation. So that is what I am currently banging my head against.
As an example, you want to talk about the first boss, or should I describe that since he described it to me?
Yeah, I can mention it quickly. You know, a prime example of the problems that we were facing originally is the first boss. So if you've downloaded the latest build, which is quite out of date, but it had the ability to see the first boss as it was from the main menu. I'm pretty sure that's a true statement.
You're correct.
Okay. Anyways, so that boss is composed of a lot of pieces, but anyways, on the sides of the screen there are these long rectangular segments, which are actually the teeth of the boss, and they move in and out to the center of the screen. They can crush you, you can hurt them, etc., etc. So prior to that, there was a notion in our physics engine of something that is immovable. So, again, that's not actually really something that exists in the real world, but it's pretty easy to add to the simulation because you're basically like, hey, physics, ignore me. You can't do anything to me. Worked great for lots of cases, static environmental pieces and whatnot. Unfortunately, the boss teeth move. They just shouldn't be moved by anything else. So effectively, it was a situation where we have something that by all intents and purposes is static in terms of the physics system, but actually does need to move as well, just under its own control, basically. And that was a case that involved a whole lot of hackery to get in place. Had to compromise on some things and just sort of do some dirty code things. And hopefully that kind of situation now will be totally alleviated.
Sounds cool. I know that fight, when I got to play it, was still in its infancy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like so many things in the game, it's like 70%-ish. It's like there's a lot there. It mostly works how we do, or how we want, but there's still things that need to be fixed and smoothed out. Some of it's programming, some of it's art, some of it's design. Pretty much par for the course.
Yeah, I mean, when I got to play the first boss, I don't think it was even skinned correctly.
Yeah, it probably wasn't way back then. I think the version that went out to the public, everything is mostly done art-wise except for the face, the head part. I'm not totally sure on that. I mean, It has a lot of nice animation, but
the boss in the build that went out to backers also isn't beatable.
Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me in the slightest.
Not because it's too hard. It's because at some point it stops taking damage. The core won't take any damage.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's like I said, 70%.
Yeah. It's still a really cool fight. I'm looking forward to all the other boss fights.
Yeah, actually played that boss for the first time pretty recently, and I was really impressed, honestly. The amount of moving pieces and just the things you're trying to do and the various things that the boss does was just oh my god. Not that that's, a technical term, but still.
There's a long-running saying on the forum is pixelscopic tight as fuck. Just to explain just how... You didn't know that? Oh yeah, that was a long-running, meme. Anytime you guys showed off something, really just mind-blowing, we just go, tight as fuck. And it holds true, even to today, so...
Well, hopefully, I mean, we should just put that on the website or something.
Go ahead.
We should probably not put that on the website.
Not kid-friendly.
Not so much.
So Doom said you're able to make semi-static things now, stuff like the teeth for linear movement, things like on rails.
Yeah, so I mean, another example is also in the real world, things typically aren't relegated to only being able to move left and right or up and down.
Well, think Zelda block pushing puzzles, those became impossible, where there's one block that can only move, you can push it, but it moves one tile to the right, and that's the only way that it can move at all.
Yeah, so those things were becoming very difficult as well in the previous system, and very frustratingly difficult. So all that stuff is being taken into account from the ground up. Because previously, the heart of the physics system was just a set of resolving functions, integration functions, and didn't really care about game world, game rules, whatever. It's like, feed me information about the real world, and I will simulate it as best I can. Fine and dandy. Works great if you're making Goat Simulator. Doesn't work so great when you want to do the kinds of gamey things that we wanted to do. So, yeah, this has all been designed with most of the things that we've wanted to do in mind from the forefront. So, hopefully, it works out that way, and it's not a big waste of time. I guess we'll see.
So Baker has said that you guys are moving closer to some Dark Souls influences, and now that I have Aaron here, maybe he can expound on.
You guys should just talk Dark Souls for like 5 minutes. And actually, Coby, if you wanted to get back to finishing lunch, or Kobe's been in like heads down mode for pretty much since forever, so he's probably going to want to get back to work and not not have to talk to us. Is that true, or do you want to stay on?
I'll stay on for 9 more minutes.
Okay, sounds good. All right, Dark Souls, go.
Oh, I was gonna let Aaron field that ball.
Aaron, how many hours do you have in Dark Souls?
The first game, well over 300. I don't remember the exact number.
Yeah, that's like, it's definitely not triple mine, but that's way more than mine.
It's like, between the 2 games, probably close to 500 hours total.
It's pretty crazy. I have 103. Just check my Steam list.
Yeah, I think it might actually be substantially more than 300 hours on Dark Souls 1, but I don't have my Steam account here, so I can't actually check.
I have 45 hours in Dark Souls 2.
But yeah, I don't know, like, most of what I've been doing has just been other contract work. I don't know, like, how much Dark Souls influence can actually be added to the game, and I'm not sure, how much can be done along those lines, like...
Well, do you want to talk about how we added... I mean, we just called it poise in the code, because we needed to fix stun anyway, because...
Yeah,
as it
I
was,
can talk specifically about that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The idea is, with the way the physics has things bouncing around quite a lot, smacking an enemy, and then it, that stuns it for like half a second or so then you can walk up and smack it again, and walk up and smack it again. It's not too fun to just beat a permanently stunned enemy to death, just walking up to it and smacking it over and over again. So... one thing we added was just this idea of poise, in that whenever you hit an enemy, it wouldn't just instantly be stunned. It would still keep trying to come after you until you broke its poise, and then it would be stunned for a longer duration and allow you to do other things to it. So that is something that... probably one of the first really big things on it was, adding poise damage to all the weapons, and then making it so it's like, okay, all enemies have to have a certain amount of poise, and after they're stunned for X amount of time, they need to instantly have this much poise again. And the alpha's drop from the coding side is pretty large, and it was a learning experience to figure out how I could get that all added in.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, for all that Coby may comment about it being hacky or whatever else, like, there are a lot of systems in the code that are just really, really, really clever.
I don't doubt that for a second. I don't doubt that for a second. Knowing Pixelscopic as I do. They like to... That one thing I've learned over the 2 years that I've known these guys is they really like to talk their game down.
Yeah, own worst enemies and all that.
Yep. Oh, this build's really bad. The build is better and less glitchy than the last build, and all they'll say is all the bad things. I guess though, when you work on something for as long as you guys have, you don't see the good anymore.
Yeah, for me it's all new, so it's just like, the way they like there are these huge like spreadsheets of data about enemy properties and weapon properties, and the way the game reads those values in allows for immense creativity on like the design standpoint, because it's like if you want to compare values but they're not in adjacent columns, you can move the columns around, reorder them, it doesn't matter. The game will just handle those differences without you having to do anything and will be read in the same way. And it does so very quickly and efficiently, and I think it's really neat.
That also doesn't surprise me. I know their preponderance for spreadsheets.
Yeah. Well, and the cool thing about a lot of that is that once the game is released and we let people... I mean, you can mod the game now, but once we kind of make a more official modding system, you can actually just like... We'll probably make all of our spreadsheets publicly available, so you can download them, edit them, insert them into the game, and the game will know that you modded it, but all you have to do is just tweak values in the spreadsheet just like we do. So we're pretty much just exposing the development process for people.
Which is good. I mean, there are games that have done that. Torchlight 2 is a good example. I've been playing that on stream, and I think it took about 3 months once the game went public that they had like a complete overhaul mod.
Yeah. I know that people added a new class to the game, which I thought was pretty impressive.
Oh, there's probably 100 different classes on the workshop now.
Yeah, I just saw some necromancer, like I think I watched a video or something like that. So
yeah, I'm playing that on stream now. That's with the Synergies mod. It adds like I think 40 hours of gameplay is their supposed statement. Like makes it almost an MMO. It adds raid bosses and another chapter, like four or five different new classes. Yeah,
and is that all free, or are people?
Yeah, it's completely free. People just donate to it.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think modding is a good way to keep the game alive.
Yeah.
Or you be the Binding of Isaac, or Dark Souls. Find a cult classic and hit on that. And as long as you're popular and you keep the popularity with a rabid fan base, which Delver's Drop will, I have no doubt.
Yeah, we need Kyle around to keep the optimism flowing, because it's sometimes in short supply with Coby and I.
I'll never forget what you said when we were at Wakanaya's in Boston, the Dorothy to your Dark Oz. I'll never forget that. I laughed. I still laugh at that. I think it's really funny.
It sounds wittier than anything I would ever say.
But you said it.
Yeah,
so,
apparently I had forgotten. So I'm glad
it's
you
all
remember.
Right. We'd all been drinking, and it was off on Friday, which I thought was probably the hardest day we had to do.
Yeah.
I don't know. That was the one that was hardest for me. After that, I think exhaustion and sleep deprivation just carried me the rest of the way.
Carried you or dragged you through?
Yeah. Have you been to any cons, Aaron?
I have actually never been to like any expo or convention at all, which is something I'm not too happy about, because I've always been interested but never really like had the opportunity to go, because it's like that's a lot of driving and a lot of time that I don't necessarily have, and a lot of money.
Mm-hmm. You haven't you've been to no cons, not even just not gaming cons, like.
I have been to absolutely none.
One day you'll have to go. They're pretty fun. I've been to a couple anime conventions, and this last PAX East was my first gaming convention.
Yeah, we're talking about maybe going to PAX Prime, still kind of in the planning, but we're probably... I mean, basically, every time we go to PAX, it's been just a lot of work for all of us, and it distracts to some degree from development time, and, you know, uses just, well, time, money, all of that stuff to go. So we're actually, I think we mentioned him on the stream a few times before and on our Kickstarter updates, but we're probably going to partner up with Junklatch / Chris Dwyer to kind of help us do the booth if we end up going. So, so we're still trying to plan that, but we'll see what happens. maybe we'll make this PAX Prime Aaron's first PAX or convention going experience.
All the way to Seattle.
Like, I'd be really, really satisfied with that. To say the least.
Well, if you guys want me to squat on your booth again, let me know. I'll try to go.
Yeah, it'd be awesome.
That was the most fun I had at the convention. I didn't really care about seeing the other booths. It was cool seeing the Mega booth, but I wasn't really, I could play Evolve, stand in line for 3 hours and play for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
I got to play Hotline Miami 2 way before it came out. That was pretty cool. Have you played any of the Hotline Miami games, Aaron?
I actually have not. I didn't, I've seen them talked about a lot, but I just haven't looked into them myself to really get into them.
I haven't played 2, which I probably should, but I really liked 1. It's a game I didn't expect to like going into it, and then once I played it, I was like, okay, I'm addicted. Like, okay, I've played 1 level of this, I now have to beat this game.
Trying to think of any games I've played recently that had that kind of effect, because it's awesome when it happens.
Yeah, Dark Souls had the same thing. I went into Dark Souls like, I know this is gonna be hard, and I know I'm gonna want to quit it. And then I played up till Taurus Demon and died a billion times. I was like, yep, yeah, but now I have to beat the Taurus Demon. It's like, well, I beat the Taurus Demon, so I guess I should just keep going. Oh, gargoyles. Well, now I have to beat the gargoyles, and just went through that the entire way up till Calumet.
Yeah.
And spent
No,
6 hours in that fight.
Trying to think of I know that when I first played Dark Souls, I was actually extremely hesitant about playing it because all I knew about it was that if you died, you dropped your souls, and then if you died again without getting those souls, they were gone forever. And I've never really been a fan of if it's a game where you can save, if you die twice, then you're actually set further back than where you were when you saved, and that always seemed not a good system to me. That seemed too punishing. But then once I actually played it and realized it's you get souls all the time, and the fact that you drop souls when you die just means that you're probably going to end up with more souls anyway.
Yeah.
And also, it ramps up the intensity, because if you die during a boss, then if you fight that boss over and over and over again, but you keep getting your souls every time, you just have this bigger and bigger soul pile at stake every single time you fight.
Right. It's a really good way to correct play. I think Dark Souls is the game that I like most, with its punishing you for dying, but at the same time it's like, okay, well, you keep dying at the same part, and you always retrieve your soul, so just go back, just double back and level up some more. It's not going to help you 100%, but it'll give you a little bit of an edge.
Mm-hmm.
I guess it's a skill versus RPG element that Dark Souls kind of toes.
Yeah. My first time playing Dark Souls was actually kind of ruined, because I got the Black Knight sword off of that first Black Knight in the Burg.
So you got supremely lucky.
Yeah, I had a really, really awesome weapon, so I never messed with upgrading, because I can't even upgrade this sword. What's the point of upgrading? And I didn't use any other weapons for the longest time, because I didn't understand how powerful upgrading was, so it's why would I use anything other than the Black Knight sword? The Black Knight sword has the biggest number.
Right. I played Sorcerer, so you can say easy mode.
No, I tried Sorcerer for a while. It was probably one of the last builds I messed with, but it's just I can't parry. What am I even doing?
You can't. I never learned how to kick, and I never learned how to parry.
Kicking is useful at some points. Parrying, parrying is how I fight.
Yeah.
Because just baiting out an attack and just murdering them for it is really good. Dark Souls 2 changed it a lot. Actually, in Dark Souls 2, I never, ever parried a single enemy. I couldn't get the timing down. It was different and weird, and I didn't like it.
I played Sorcerer in Dark Souls 2 as well, so
Yeah,
I like mages. I like ranged combat.
that's fair enough.
I had a lot of problems with Dark Souls 2.
There are a lot of things about Dark Souls 2 that I really, really liked. But there are some things like there's that ring that if you wear it and when you die with it, you don't drop your souls, but the ring breaks. But they added the ability to just fix broken rings in Dark Souls 2, which
Yes.
means that each death was now just, 3,000 souls and a bit of time to run back to the blacksmith.
Mm-hmm.
So death became inconsequential, especially because they added more ring slots, so
Yeah,
wearing
they
one of those
doubled-
rings at all times didn't make a difference anyway.
Yeah, they doubled the range.
Yeah, like, I actually really, really loved the whole each time you die, your max health drops a bit. Because if you defeat a boss by cooperating, you get all that health back. So it just encouraged cooperation at every boss, because it's like, okay, you've died a bunch of times to get to the boss, then you can do jolly cooperation to get some practice against the boss, and then when you fight it for yourself, you're back at full health and everything.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was a neat system, but then it became totally unnecessary once people figured out the way you could abuse the rings. Even though it's not
Yeah.
really abuse, it's just how they could be used.
Yeah. See, you're one of the few people I know that like the new hollowing system.
Yeah,
I thought it was kind of a drag.
like, the thing about Dark Souls is that if you're not carrying any souls, then death is meaningless. Because it's like, if you're not human, if you're not carrying souls, then death is just whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I have to go back to the last bonfire. It's a teleportation technique.
Right.
Just impale yourself on an enemy's weapon and bam. But in Dark Souls 2, having 50% health sucks, and you never want to be at that state. So death is always bad.
Right. It definitely fixed some of the abuses that, again, it's really not an abuse because it's the way the game is. But you can still abuse mechanics. So it definitely fixed some things, and I can see the thought process behind it. It just feels oddly overcorrective.
Like soul memory.
Yeah, I never really got too into Soul Memory. I'm not a big PvPer, so I never really. I went to the Belfries, Luna, and did some PvP, but I never really got big into it. So the Soul Memory didn't really bother me too much. I know
Yeah.
it's a bigger problem for a lot more hardcore players, though.
The issue is, like, what soul memory fixed was that in Dark Souls 1, you could play who you would fight against was determined entirely by your soul level, which means
Right.
that if you played risky and stayed at a really low soul level until the end of the game, you could fight against newbies, but with endgame gear.
Yes.
Like, I created a level 9 giant dad and would go into the Berg, and people could beat on me for 20 minutes and I wouldn't die. Like, I wouldn't even really be that hurt. It was insane. So in Dark Souls 2, they made it so each time you kill an enemy, the amount of souls you get adds to your soul memory. So if you fight through to the end of the game, that's when you can't fight newbies again because you've killed all the enemies to get to the end of the game. Which fixed that problem, but it also ruined this other really, really fun aspect of Dark Souls PvP, which was people would have they would get to a certain soul level, optimize as much as they could at that soul level, and deliberately compete at certain soul levels against other people at that soul level.
Right.
So they would have this really interesting, you could see all these interesting builds as people try to prioritize different stats and different things. And there was an art to making these builds. But when soul memory happened, optimizing builds didn't really matter, because like your soul memory is always going to be going up over time, so just get all the stats you want and get as powerful as you can get, and then just do fast rolls in the heaviest endgame armor because you have 99 endurance, because why wouldn't you?
Right. I also hear hex builds were a real big problem in PvP in Dark Souls 2.
I rolled. If you roll, you're invincible. It doesn't matter what magic they use. But I played Dark Souls 2 PvP just because, like, even with rolling around with max stats, it was still a really fun game to play, and I got the award for killing 500 players.
It's pretty good.
Yeah. It's not like I was, like, constantly shooting for that goal. It's just, I'm not doing anything. Might as well kill people in Dark Souls 2. And so I did.
Right.
So I'm wondering, well, and again, Aaron is still like pretty new to the team, still kind of learning some stuff. But Aaron, like based on your current kind of play experience of Delver's Drop, like what would you sort of like to see or like to work on or want to see added to make it, I mean, just a more enjoyable game, but also like appeal to the genre fans. I feel like our genre is pretty much like fans of Binding of Isaac, fans of Dark Souls. Like that's, you know, right in everyone's wheelhouse. So like as a kind of pretty hardcore Dark Souls player, what would you want to see? Like if you didn't know anything about this game, how would we like convince you to buy it, let's say?
Like what could you change about the game to make it scratch more of a Dark Souls itch?
I mean, maybe that's one way to put it, and I don't want to say like what could we do to be more like Dark Souls, but it's kind of like what do you think that the game needs kind of added to it right now to just make it more appealing to everyone, including Dark Souls players?
Or
what would you want to work on just personally, kind of, you know, spend your time on here at the company to kind of improve or whatever?
This is actually a pretty challenging question.
On the spot.
Yeah.
Good game show.
Well, we talked about having you work on skill tree. You worked on poise or our kind of equivalent of something like that recently. I mean, what else are you excited about working on? Maybe that's an easier way to put it.
Honestly, I'm interested in what I can work on in terms of future bosses, because that first boss was just... I want to go to a movie theater and fight that boss.
Just on a big screen, you mean?
Yeah. Well, it's just, that was like an event.
Yeah.
Because it's the entire room and everything is happening around you, and there's all these different parts to attack and all these different things that are coming at you. And it's like, oh god, what other bosses can be like this? Because it doesn't...
No, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Oh.
No, please.
Like, I can't think of any of the games I've played where you have bosses that are all around you like that. And so it's just like, more of this is excellent, and like, if we can have bosses that consistently give that, you know, event feeling, you know, we could, like, just the bosses alone would be their own selling point.
Yeah. And
Have you... Oh, no, go ahead, Baker.
Oh, I think I know where you're going. Why don't you go ahead?
Oh, have you seen the other bosses on the list, Aaron?
I actually have not.
Yeah, they're all pretty just conceptual. Like, I need to start working on the art for those again.
I don't think you'll be disappointed, Aaron, knowing what I know about the lore. That's really, I mean, that's basically where I'm focused on. Not just I guess what I'm helping these guys do, but in general, I've kept Baker up many nights talking just about. Well, what about this? What about this? Things that'll never ever impact the story at all, but things that I'm intimately aware of now.
If a rogue and a gladiator walk into a bar and it's a Tuesday and the moon is full,
and I have the answer to that. But you should take a look at the boss list. I think you'll.
Yeah, we're slowly introducing him to the deep and murky waters. So but I should. I keep forgetting. Like, I'm really bad about thinking everyone knows everything that's in my head. So I'm like, oh yeah, Aaron knows about the bosses. Oh wait, no, we never told him. Oops.
Yeah, I've never seen them. I don't know what they're like. I'm actually not even that familiar with the game lore. Like, I know that, like, the way the elements tie into it is really interesting, especially because the number of elements in this game is kind of high. But anyway.
Yeah, so
I'm really awkward on stream. I apologize.
Oh no, you're doing fine. How often do you stream?
The only times I ever stream are, like, for friends I'm already familiar with. When I play, like, Final Fantasy 14.
You're fine. It's all
It's just like, oh hey, people in the free company want to watch this raid. Well, I can just stream it so they can watch since they can't be there, and then they can laugh at me as I like do a really funny dance to dodge all the AOE's.
So Baker, can I be a little spoilery today?
Oh boy,
we're on the topic. We're on the topic of the boss.
Do we have like 2 viewers or something? Probably.
No, we have more than that.
We have 7 is the counter.
Yeah,
I'm sitting here watching you art, and I'm like really impressed because it's just like that's like you were drawing all that smog earlier. It's like I know how to draw smog. You just draw those like Super Mario clouds, all bunch them together, and then just put them together, and then you're just like. Yeah, no, I'm just going to draw all these really weird shapes, and then I'm going to do stuff to them, and then it's going to look like magic, and it'll be the most cool, twisty ball of fog thing ever.
Yeah, I didn't really finish. I guess I should probably finish this. I just kind of got bored and went on to something else, but yeah, trying to make the
so was that a yes or a no, Baker?
But, sorry, being spoiler, I think I was trying to dodge. Oh, see you later.
I know you were trying to dodge.
Yvonne is heading out. Coby, are you heading out too? Okay. Fitted for a tux? Oh, okay. Well, I will see you guys later. Saturdays are freeform around here. Yeah, I mean, I'll just mute you if you start saying something I think should be secret.
I think this has already been revealed, but it's been so long. Essentially, Aaron and Stream, if you guys have seen the first boss, you'll know it's this like gigantic face with teeth. That's a pretty good way of describing it, I think.
Yeah. You're inside of a giant mouth, kind of.
So, and this probably isn't a big revelation to anyone who can extrapolate this sort of thing, but all the other bosses are parts of the same entity.
Mm-hmm.
So you might fight the lungs, might fight, I think the rib cage is one of them. It's been a long time since I've looked at the list.
Well, I've changed the list a few times too, so I get confused myself because we haven't been working on them recently. So, yeah, because it's hard to come up with the concepts because it's all like you're kind of inside of this this mechanical entity that is like fused with the drop. I mean, I guess that's probably spoilery too, but
that was what I was gonna spoil. So
yeah.
I didn't have to do it. I got you to do it.
Yeah, I mean, I think we told people that, but probably no one remembers at this point. But I think we said that on the Kickstarter somewhere, more or less, anyway.
I think so, yeah. But yeah, so I think everyone will be satisfied with the bosses at that stage.
Yeah.
I think we went maybe we went a little overkill with the first boss, and like Aaron said, it's pretty impressive. But then I'm like, oh man, did I use all my good ideas? What are we gonna do for boss number 2? You know, that's. But we've definitely got some ideas. I don't want any of them to be super stereotypical. Like, well, at least none of them will be just like, here's a dude that walks around and tries to smash you. You know, it's not. There will be mini bosses like that. But we honestly, right now, I'd kind of rather put some work into those mini bosses. And we've been slowly working toward all these enemy AI improvements over time as well. So,
like Lou. As a mini boss.
Yeah, Lou the giant goblin thing,
Mm-hmm.
the giant gobel.
Yeah. Have you seen Lou, Aaron?
I have not.
Nathan, who I'm sure you know quite
Yeah.
well,
Invented
what-
him.
yeah. So a new build went out, and I think I'd been playing the build for like 5 hours that day. It had just come out, and I actually got this on a recording, which I was really happy about. I just walk in, and there's this, and you know, up until this point, all the enemies have been, you know, regular size, no variation, and no one said anything. I don't even think Baker or Coby knew that.
I don't know if I knew that it went out in the build. I had definitely seen it.
Yeah.
But-
So all of a sudden, there was just this gigantic, massive new, quote-unquote, new mob that no one had ever seen. And I just remember, like, rushing to Coby and Baker, like, what the hell is going on?
Yeah,
I
'cause
for sure thought it was a bug.
Yeah, because you had only seen the little, like, you know, bobble-headed, like, little guys with the nose and the 2 Google eyes, like, you know, like this. And they're like, and the character's like this tall compared to them. And so then you walk into a room and there's one that's like this big, you know, just a giant, like, you know, 5 times as big as the character.
Yeah. And Nathan also did, like, ultra-tiny spiderlings.
Oh, yeah, I think I remember those 2. I'm pretty sure we
Which were-
took them out, but
Horrifying.
yeah, kind of
Because
creepy.
This not even creepy, it's just the spider was a really hard mob to get around.
Mm-hmm.
But I knew the size and the regular jump that it would do, but since the size was smaller, it auto-corrected somehow with the jump. So they would, like, jump twice, and it was just... And there was, like, 15 of them in a room.
I need to dig that up again and look at those because we talked about having some enemies that act kind of like that. They probably wouldn't be mini spiders, but I want to go back and see what that looked like because now I had actually forgotten about that.
I'll see if
I think that was when we were trying to, like, reuse enemies to make, like, reuse kind of what we had to make more interesting enemies, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Doom is asking about enemy AI, which I imagine, Aaron, you might have a little bit to say on that.
I actually, like, I've heard them talk about it, but I actually haven't touched AI myself.
Okay.
Outside of, like, I had to mess with AI states to get us, you know, a different kind of stun rather than the auto stun that they included. Oh,
Right.
I also had to mess with it because, can I talk about the, like, slightly changed death effect thing?
For enemies, you mean, or?
Yeah.
I think so. I guess I'm not really sure where you're going with it, but yeah, that should be fine.
Yeah, no. Like, you know, Legend of Zelda, whenever you kill an enemy, like in, like, the 3D ones, it would fade to black and then go poof in a thing of smoke.
Yes.
One thing was that, like, if you have a whole bunch of enemies and you're killing them really quick, they just all, like, kind of go poof like they're a bunch of balloons.
Yeah, they instantly pop when you slash them. Like, it doesn't feel very kind of physical because you just swing your sword and they just, like, just disappear as if there was nothing there in the first place.
Yeah. So, I added this AI state where it's like, if you hit them and it's a killing blow, their AI essentially shuts down. And I'm watching Baker's delayed motions in this stream of him waving his arms, sorry. But, like, you smack them and then they would just fade to purple and then poof. And so I had to mess with the AI because it's like, okay, while you're dead, stop trying to attack me.
Right.
And you shouldn't feel any recoil from doing the killing blow, and if you run into the enemy while it's dead, it shouldn't hurt you. So I messed with the AI a little bit on that, but I haven't messed with any more complicated AI if they were, working on that.
Mm-hmm. I know a long time ago, and I'm sure this has gone through 100 different changes, but enemy AI, I think there was 3 states for each creature they could be in, and there was some kind of branching tree out of that, or one hostile, neutral, friendly. And then it would check what entity it was friendly, hostile, or neutral.
Yeah, that's we a few months ago we started working on it and then kind of put it on hold, and Yvonne, who was here earlier, was going to help with that, but now he's helping with more of the kind of online new build processing stuff. But yeah, we were trying to work on sort of a a non-linear matrix where enemy is in its happy state and it's just walking around the room, but if it detects anything that it considers a threat, whether it's the player or I don't know, could even be a bunch of spikes on the floor, or it could be another different enemy type, like a bug may detect that a bat is nearby and the bat may attack it because the bat can eat bugs for food. So we're working on that, where everything can have different things that they consider a threat or don't, and change modes based on their detection of those kind of threats and friendlies. So I don't know how much we talked about that on stream or anything like that, but it's going to be pretty cool, I think. We may have to simplify a couple things because it was just starting to get to where it was going to take a lot of time, and it was actually the one thing that was really hard to kind of write or to script. But we definitely do need something kind of like that, because the enemies are pretty dumb right now. They're basically I think the only 3 states are just sort of wander around the room, mind your own business, and then attack the player, or kind of wait and watch the player and then try to attack the spiders. And those those have been the only 3 states for a long time, and we're slowly trying to improve that quite a bit.
And the coil snaps as well, but they have spider AI anyway.
Yeah, they were just spider AI with different movement properties, I think.
Yeah. How much of the game have you played, Aaron?
I've gotten to play they showed me
we forced him to play the old builds actually the other day.
Yeah, no, they showed me a bunch of builds and had me start from way early on, and then it's here there are no shadows. Here you have a silhouette shadow, and here you can actually cast multiple shadows from multiple light sources, and it looks really, really cool. But it's been interesting to play through those and see the game slowly evolve.
Yeah. It's definitely one of the best parts of the journey that I've had as well. Is just sinking all this time in, which I'm sure Baker doesn't want to hear.
It's just it just makes me cringe. Oh my gosh, you played our game for how long? I feel like I've ruined your life.
It's definitely close to 700 hours now.
Are you serious? I thought it was only 400 or 300 or something.
No, the last time we talked was before. The last time we talked about how much I'd played was before I moved down to Phoenix. So yeah. I definitely put in a solid 100 hours with the endless drop mode.
Jeez.
So it's floating between
600,
it's floating between 600 and 700. So it's definitely
I say the number one reason we need to put a new build out.
So I can play another 100 hours. Yeah. I haven't played in months now, and I feel I've been through withdrawal. Every video game I play now, I stack up to how much fun I have with Delver's Drop, and almost none of them compete. So you have to put out a new build.
Yeah. Is there Did you back or have you played Hyper Light Drifter?
I didn't back it. I have played it, and I'm happy that I didn't back it.
Oh, really? You didn't
Yeah.
like it that much? I was just kind of curious. Like, we're starting to have more and more competitors kind of pop up on Kickstarter, and Hyper Light Drifter is probably the most prominent one. Titan Souls would be another, like, kind of similar game, like has giant bosses.
I think when it comes to both of those games, you have no competition whatsoever.
Yeah, like I've seen Titan Souls. It looks like a lot of fun, but like from an art standpoint, Delver's Drop just absolutely destroys it.
From a
Like-
gameplay perspective, both games are complete garbage.
Really?
I thought
wow,
Titan
that's a
Souls-
strong statement.
I thought Titan Souls had an interesting mechanic where it's like you have a bow with one arrow, but like as soon as you shoot the arrow, you can pull it back to you, and it's still counting as a trajectory.
And
But it
that
also adds risk because there are some bosses where you don't want to hit them too many times. So if you shoot and you don't hit the part you want, you can't just pull it back because then you might hit more parts you don't want. And I
That's
thought
pretty
that
cool.
was
I
actually
didn't know about that part.
it's got a singular gimmick. I played it's actually the most popular video on my channel without the aid of another person kind of giving me traffic is the Ludum Dare version that they put out. It's just Titan Souls is a boss rush mode. I mean, that's basically the entire game. And I'm not gonna say it's a terrible game because I'm sure there are people who really like that kind of game. But it's definitely not overstepping where Delver's Drop is going to be.
Yeah, because Titan Souls is very, very obviously like Shadow of the Colossus inspired because it's just bosses and they're
Yeah.
big bosses and you're really tiny, and then it also takes inspiration from other games because if you get hit once you die and then you have to start all over again against that boss. But
Oh, please go ahead. I'm sorry, Aaron.
like I don't know if there's anything else about it, but it's just like, oh, so it's like kind of like Super Meat Boy where it's like you have to start the screen over again. But
Dark Souls meets Super Meat Boy meets Shadows of the Colossus without the puzzles.
yeah, like there's not like the bosses are clever, but they're not nearly Shadow of the Colossus tier. At least from the bosses I've seen, there's not one where it's like you have to make it hit a little pedestal on the ground so it breaks its armor on its arm so that you can climb its fur on that side or something.
Yeah. And when it comes to Hyper Light Drifter, I think people like the artwork, but the combat in Hyper Light Drifter is like playing with a wet paper bag. It's not intuitive, it's not fun, and you're going to get messy and uncomfortable.
I thought kind of fighting things with your sword was pretty fun. My play experience was mainly at PAX when we were both in the mega booth together at PAX East over a year ago. But I thought the weapon switching was pretty weird. So I don't know. I really haven't played that much.
A friend gave me a copy of the beta that they put out.
Hang on, I got a phone call.
Yeah, no problem. And I didn't play it at PAX because the line was huge,
Yeah.
and I didn't want to wait. But I watched a lot of it being played, and the PAX build looked way smooth. And I was actually like, you know what? That actually looks kind of fun. And then I played the beta build, and I was like, you know what? It's cheap.
Well,
It's-
I think they're hitting some limitations because it was made in Game Maker,
Yes.
which totally fine. But making I'm kind of impressed that they managed to make something that big and complex in Game Maker. And I don't know, maybe at this point if they switch to a native engine or something like that. But anyway,
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that you guys are going to have competition because this is the game industry, and competition is kind of how the industry thrives, and competition isn't necessarily or inherently bad. But I think you are overstating the enemies that you have to face. If you guys had come out...
I don't consider them enemies. I was just kind of...
Oh, well...
I was just wondering if you guys had played our... I mean, it's... I guess, like, indie games is kind of going through this phase where there's now, like, really good games that are inspired by the same things we're inspired by, and so, like, the I guess, action RPG genre is having, like, a little bit of a reawakening. Which I like, or at least like the traditional 2D top-down action RPG.
And maybe enemy, quote-unquote, is a strong term, but if you guys had put your game out against The Binding of Isaac Rebirth, that might have been a problem.
Yeah, like that's... I think at this point that is just like the juggernaut that, that cannot be... like, there's no way we're ever going to sell more copies than Binding of Isaac or anything like that.
No, there's no way. Absolutely.
It's just like a gamer household name at this point,
Yeah, and I mean, I have like 300 hours into it, so I can't say anything about it. I've obviously put my fair share of time into both Binding of Isaac and Rebirth. I think I have 500 hours between the two of them.
Yeah.
I'm back, by the way. I think I have the first Binding of Isaac. I still have yet to play it, though. I think I should.
You should, and welcome back.
Yeah, Matt still plays Rebirth sometimes. Matt Vargas, who is on the stream kind of most weeks.
Classy Dix TV says, I'm sure the Isaac guys thought that also. They probably did.
They thought what?
That it's a juggernaut, I think is what was being implied.
Yeah.
Having met McMillan, I met him at PAX, and I met Tommy too.
Oh, you did? I didn't know
that.
I met Tommy, because they sort of secretly shared some booth space with us at one time.
Oh, yeah?
For a little secret project. I guess I probably shouldn't say, because I'm not sure, like, how public any of that ever was, but yeah, they sort of borrowed some booth space from us.
That's pretty cool. I mean, it was mostly hi, I love your game, that's cool,
Yeah.
Thanks for playing, sort of thing. I didn't really get to talk to... I talked to Tommy for a little bit. I didn't really get to talk to Ed because, he was showing off eugenics and all that at PAX East, which was crazy.
Is that?
But he seems like
they
a
say
super
that's on hold or something?
Yeah, it's on hold until Super Meat World comes.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I haven't. I actually have totally missed any of the news about Super Meat World.
I'm more or less ignoring it. I've never played Super Meat Boy. I'm not a good platform gamer.
Oh, I love Super Meat Boy. Like that's kind of more my jam than Binding of Isaac, actually.
Yeah, I mean, everyone I know who has played Super Meat Boy is like, why don't you play Super Meat Boy?
Yeah.
I can think of a few reasons.
Yeah, me too.
Like, I can't remember if I own it or not, but I know that I've played it, and like, it's frustration the game, honestly, because like you'll die a lot, and starting all over just it's not fun or encouraging the way like dying in Dark Souls is.
Mm-hmm.
It's just kind of like you hecked up, try it again, have fun.
Yep.
'Cause it's like the jumps are so complicated and like the gameplay is so fast that like you're having to wait for a series of luck, and like I play MMOs from time to time, and waiting for my drops in those games is all the luck-based gameplay I really want to deal with.
What was your earliest MMO?
Oh god. Some Korean thing called Priston Tale.
Never heard of it.
Yeah, you shouldn't have heard of it. Like, it was... Like, I think it might have been, like, browser-based early on. I know that at some point it became a standalone client, but, like... you had quests to, like, unlock certain jobs, but, like... all you did was just kill enemies, and you killed enemies by clicking hold on I'm just clicking and holding on them, but like you had to watch your health, and you only had a certain amount of mana, and like the carrot on a stick of the fancy toy you could use at the next level kept me going, playing for far longer than I should have.
Mm-hmm. My first MMO was Ultima Online.
That's a more respectable one.
Yeah, but it also means I'm really old. And then I went to... I'm sorry?
How old are you?
I'll be 30 this year.
Would not have guessed.
Yeah, I've got a young voice, I'm told. Yes, I will be 30 this year. And then I moved to EverQuest when it first launched. And we were like, holy shit, it's 3D. And then I look back at the graphics and I'm like, holy shit, that's 3D. Then I moved to Asheron's Call.
What's that?
Which
Asheron's Call.
Asheron's Call, yeah.
Yeah.
Which is probably still my favorite. And then I beta Dark Age of Camelot and Anarchy Online. And then WoW came out, and I baited that. But then EverQuest 2 came out, and all my friends moved to that, so we played that for a while, and then I finally moved to WoW. And I think I played MapleStory and Ragnarok Online in between those games for a while.
I couldn't get into either of those games because it's just like, oh, this cool kind of simplistic 2D gameplay that's really enjoyable, but then it's just like, I'm not really interested. Like, I couldn't really sink my teeth into it as much as, the people who made it probably would have liked.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure, I mean, not MapleStory, because MapleStory got massive, but a thing with Eastern MMOs I've always noticed is they really like to, Western MMOs, especially with WoW, slowly migrated away from spend 50 hours staring at a screen grinding one enemy for a drop that's only going to marginally impact your levels for 3 levels. Whereas Eastern MMOs, especially the Korean MMOs, were like, no, this is what MMOs are supposed to be. Spend 50 hours doing this.
Yeah.
Korean MMOs in particular are rather insidious.
Yes.
I've read things, because it's like, have you ever heard of Dragon Nest?
Yeah, I have. I've never played it.
A good amount of that, and the gameplay in that approached Devil May Cry 3 levels of fun for me. I had a blast, but then it just got so grindy and so awful. And if you looked at how you were supposed to pay for that game, they made it so spending money doesn't just give you a free upgrade, which is good because it's not strictly pay to win, but at the same time, there are chances, many mechanics that involve you spending money and possibly getting nothing. And it's designed to set up this gambling mentality where you just dump more and more money so that some of your purchases will actually give you a bonus. And
so they take the virtual grinding aspect, and they know you'll be addicted to that, and try to make it full blown gambling addiction.
Yeah, no. I remember reading this article where specifically there was this one woman who, there was this one MMO where you could get boxes, and you could buy keys to unlock those boxes, and there were rewards for each day. Whoever unlocks the most boxes gets a bonus, some award. I'm not sure what it was specifically, but yeah. So she spent literally 24 hours non-stop opening boxes using keys that she paid money for. Just opening boxes 24 hours straight, and she didn't even get it because someone else was doing the same thing and was unlocking boxes faster.
Yep.
That is hardcore scary gambling. That's why there are a lot of Korean MMOs that get really popular because they have some interesting mechanics or really good graphics, like Black Desert, which is, pretty recent, looks beautiful, has a lot of hype around it, but it's it's a Korean MMO. It has a lot to prove to me before it's something I want to spend any time on, because those can very easily be very evil.
Yeah, what was the one that came out on Steam a while back? super huge hype. Korean MMO. I can't
honestly-
remember.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
I'm sure I have. I played that a little bit. I'm sure I have something in my mailbox that'll remind me what it's called.
By the way, guys, I'm probably gonna have to close the stream down in just a little bit here.
Oh, it's cool. We've
yeah,
been going for a
Not in
little
like
while.
a super rush, but yeah, we've well, I guess we had a rough start there because the mic wasn't working. But
Yeah.
anyway,
Yes. Doom reminded me it was Arcade.
Oh yeah, Arcade. That was like, was that the game where you could like actually like choose the lengths of individual limbs of your character, so people created like all these really scary looking deformities?
I don't think so. It did have a really in-depth character creation.
That might have been Ion.
Yeah, Ion's another one. My sister played that game for a long
did
time.
either of you guys play Terra? Tera?
Yes,
No, I never did.
I played to max level.
That's crazy.
I kind of wanted to play that one because it was more of a true action RPG. Like, you know, your weapon swing had to be. I mean, it was like, you know, a little more Dark Souls-y compared to like Diablo-y.
Like,
Unless I'm thinking
yeah.
of the wrong one, right?
No, Terra was much more like actiony, and it felt a lot better to play than a lot of MMOs. And like, you had a dodge ability, which like most classes had some ability to dodge, and it came in immense useful and allowed you to solo some dungeons and a lot of like really powerful monsters. Like the biggest raid in the game at the part I played could be soloed by 2 people, and the only reason you needed 2 people was at one point you have to fight 2 bosses at once, and if they get close together, then they both get super fast and you can't possibly win. But no, like, Terra had this. Terra, all of the weapons were bind on equip instead of bind on use, or instead of bind on pickup, which means that for anyone who would to go into any of the dungeons where the awesome endgame stuff dropped, you had to already have the weapons from that instance, otherwise no one would take you. Also, getting a new piece of gear was one of the worst things that could happen to you, because it now meant that you had no money, because when you got a piece of gear, you had to spend tons and tons of money and time gambling, trying to increase its stats to +1, +2, +3, +4, so on and so forth. And it's just like, unless you maximize how much money, or like how much time and how much grind you put through, and like the content wasn't even hard, but it was all about money, and you know, you had to have a lot of money to upgrade your gear and to buy the best gear. And then if you sunk in all that time, then you could sink in time actually being the people to get the fancy gear that you could then sell for more money, so you could stay ahead of the curve. But all in all, it was just a grind. Like, it got too grindy. That's my big complaint with a lot of Korean MMOs, is that they prioritize doing the same thing over and over again.
That's
and
exactly the difference between Eastern and Western MMOs.
I don't lump them Eastern and Western, because like Final Fantasy XIV is by far not at all grindy. Like there are ways you can get really powerful weapons without having to raid, and those are incredibly grindy, but you only need to do that if you don't, you know, get the weapons from raiding. So it's like it allows you to get really powerful weapons without having to raid, which is fine.
I haven't played 14. I did play 11 a little bit, and I thought that was grindy as hell.
Yeah. 14 is quite different. I'm a really big fan of it, and like...
Yeah, you've been playing it a lot, right? I feel like I heard you talking about it a couple times around the office.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of it. It's really fun to me. I have a good static group that I raid with, and the bosses are a lot of fun. The music is really good. Like, a lot of the bosses in that game have unique soundtracks, which
That's cool.
is like unheard of, because it's like you play WoW, like sure there are some like raid music and it might have like some boss music kind of stuff, but Final Fantasy 14, like there are primals. Each one has at least one unique theme. One of the bosses, Titan, has 5. As you progress through the fight, it goes through 5 different songs.
Wow.
That's pretty cool. I mean, they have Square Enix money though, so really they should they should
like,
spend a little bit.
One thing I really liked about it, like one of my biggest things that upset me with WoW, like the time I played WoW and actually started to like get into it beyond just being like, oh, I don't like this and quitting, it was right at the end of the Burning Crusade. And like in that game, you can mount up, and if you go inside a house, you automatically dismount.
Yep.
But the game, the game had been out for I don't even know how many years, and the update that made it so like if you're running across ruined buildings, like even if there was no ceiling and they were just like piles of rubble on the ground, if you ran across them while mounted, it would dismount you because it would count as being in a building. And the update that fixed that happened while I played, which was after the game had been out for multiple years. And that just speaks to me that they're not trying particularly hard. That if it's been out for this long, that they're just now fixing it. Meanwhile, Final Fantasy XIV, the first time it came out, it was awful and so just terrible that they thought it, diminished Final Fantasy as a brand. So when they redid it, they were trying really, really, really hard to make it good.
Yeah.
And the effort actually shows. And like, if a developer is trying hard on a game, and I can tell, that makes me much more a fan of it.
Yeah, I played WoW when it was in beta vanilla, and then I got back in Wrath of the Lich King. And I think the Wrath of the Lich King was the most fun I've ever had with an MMO. I think I just think that they got the storylines and the questing right, and they also added the dungeon finder, which allowed you to basically enter a queue as one of the 3 roles or 4 roles in the game, I guess. And it would pull from a set of other servers. So you didn't have to wait around. You could go and quest, and you could go and, do stuff, and you'd be in this static queue, and it would pop up saying, hey, we found a dungeon, do you want to go in? And you could say yes, and then you'd be pulled into an instance of this dungeon with people you'll never see again, more than likely, from different servers.
Yeah. That's really, really convenient, but I have really, really mixed feelings about that kind of thing. Because it kills the world in a way.
Yeah.
Because, like, if everyone has to actually go to the dungeon to go into it, then you actually have people out in the world traveling to places, or just like you'll see people. Whenever you make it so you can just be wherever and then teleport to the dungeons, then you don't see people in the dungeons, then you don't see people in the world anymore because they're either in town or out raiding, or just... I've heard terrible, terrible things about what's happened to WoW since they introduced garrisons, because now people just chill in their own private little housing, and so you don't see anyone.
See, I like EverQuest 2 had housing, and I play on RP servers, so people were going to be in houses anyway, so it really never affected me. I don't know how garrisons have done, but as someone who was going to have a garrison on an RP server with an RP guild where people weren't just playing to play the dungeons and weren't just playing to play the grind, I guess. It only strengthened what we were doing, I guess. So, weird relationship between different sets of players.
Yeah, like, the issue is, like, a lot of people are much more a fan of the for all reasons, convenience, ease, everything, teleporting to dungeons makes a lot of sense and makes things a whole lot better. However, for people who are like really interested in the MMO as a world and like trying to immerse themselves in this thing and seeing other players and like all taking part in this fantasy story, things that break the consistency of the world, like people sitting in town and then all of a sudden they just teleport to their dungeon, like it diminishes that greatly. You can't like, it feels less like a real fantasy world if people just chill in town and then all of a sudden they're where they want to be. It's a whole lot more convenient that way, so it's a balance, but like it's a general trend I've seen with a lot of MMOs that they'll start out with more hardcore mechanics and those are the best times to play it, and then over time they'll make things easier to get a bigger audience. And just because it's seen as an improvement if you can relieve frustration in a game over time. And so they do that, and it works really well. But then it gets to the point where, like, the world isn't even that important anymore. You're just logging in for your grind that you do from town.
I just never felt that way. But again, I was an atypical player, so... But kind of like what you were saying with Final Fantasy XIV, I had a dedicated group of people that I'd log in with. I was living with my sister and her boyfriend. So, and they had my other sister and her boyfriend. So we always had, you know, a group of 5, so all we ever needed to do was grab one person. And I always played healer. So I was always someone who was going to get a dungeon no matter what.
Yeah.
I haven't played MMOs in years though, and I probably won't go back because if I started up an MMO, I wouldn't do anything on my channel and I wouldn't stream.
Well, couldn't you stream the MMO or?
I could, but I don't think that'd be very engaging to watch. I know people
maybe.
do that. I know tons of people do that. I know it's really popular. Definitely with WoW, I see people stream. I think WoW is always in the top 10 most streamed games. But I don't think I could make that content fun because.
Yeah.
When I like I said, I always play healer, so I'm always focused on keeping everyone alive. There's not really a lot of time to have banter.
You're playing inverse whack-a-mole with bars.
Yeah, exactly. I really liked healing in WoW. EverQuest 2 was probably my favorite healing moment. EverQuest 2 did this really cool thing where you could be a level 50, and let's say you had a bunch of friends who were like level 5 and they wanted your help. Well, if you joined as level 50, they're not going to get any experience because you're so much more powerful than everything that you're killing in the area. So you could mentor, which would drop your level and your items and your stats to an appropriate level, but still high for your level, but appropriate.
Yeah.
And there was this place called the Fallen Gate, which was like the first, dungeon that you would go to as one of the evil side characters. And everyone's like, well, let's go and just do this. So I got a guildmate who was also max level at the time, which was 50, and myself. So he was tanking and I was healing. So we were still having problems, but we were powerful enough where we could pull like half of an area at each level. And there was a secret area, if you knew what to do, where it was like a gauntlet. And I just see in chat, hey, I'm going to pull the entire gauntlet. Which was like 30 enemies. I think the fight only lasted a solid minute, but I've never pushed buttons faster and harder in my life in that minute.
Yeah. Final Fantasy XIV... Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, I don't think he ever had higher than quarter health the entire fight through all my healing.
Yeah.
I think it was just dipping between like 2% and 35% health the entire fight.
Yeah. Final Fantasy XIV, what I like, I don't really heal too much in that game, but what I like about, raid healing, is that a lot of the endgame healing gear, you want to know a stat on healing gear that you wouldn't really expect?
Strength?
Accuracy. It's not that your heals can miss.
Heal?
It's not that your heals can miss. It's that, whatever is the current end game rating tier, there is not a single boss that, if you're a healer, you have to be DPSing at some point, because you won't be able to do enough damage to beat it otherwise.
I see.
So
That is
it's not
kind
just
of
healing, it's knowing when you can heal and when you can DPS, because you switch to a stance that makes it so your spells actually do damage and DPSing is worthwhile. But the thing is, whenever you switch into that stance, your heals are worthless, and you can't switch back out of that stance for another 5 seconds. So if you
So
switch into it at a really bad time, no one's going to get healed, everyone's going to die. So the healers have to know when damage is coming and be prepared for that, and know when things are going to be more safe, so they know when they can focus more on damage. And I think that that's really good mechanic that I haven't really seen too much in other MMOs, where the healers have to deal damage.
Yeah, I would like to see an MMO where the heal stick isn't quite as required. Like a dedicated heal stick. I would like to see an MMO where everyone is kind of responsible for the pool of health for the party.
I think, what's the sequel that came out a long while ago? It was an MMO that the first one was mostly for PvP, but then the sequel had more PvE elements. It came out recently, but they did a thing where they tried to kill the Trinity, because like everyone has a heal, everyone has the ability to take some damage, and it was.
I have no idea.
It was really neat in theory, but what ended up happening was that people would fight by running around like chickens with their heads cut off, trying to like switch aggro between people, because it's like, oh god, I'm getting hit, I need to run away, and then the boss will turn around and start smacking them, and they'll run away. And there's also like some people would die, and then they would just revive and by running back into the instance and run to chase down the boss, and the boss would still be there, and they would just throw themselves at the boss until it died. Like, the Trinity exists for a reason, and so it's like, if you want to get away from that, it's a very careful balancing act. Because,
Yeah,
like,
it's definitely not something that would be easy to implement.
like, especially on any kind of large scale, because it's like, if you want that kind of thing, look at, teaming up with other players in Dark Souls. Like, you don't have a tank, you don't have a healer doing those things. Everyone is kind of responsible for their own health. But it's not really scalable. You can't have 8-man bosses in Dark Souls without... Especially because death in Dark Souls is such a big deal. Yeah, it's tricky.
Death in Dark Souls is... I mean, I don't know. Dark Souls combat, I would say, is almost the exact opposite of MMO combat. In a lot of ways.
Well, you would also think that Devil May Cry combat is the exact opposite of MMO combat, and then you have Dragon Nest.
Yeah, but Dragon Nest isn't the typical...
Yeah, it's not. Also, since it's so dungeon and instance based, you could argue that it's not really truly an MMO, because the only times when you see all other players is when you're in towns.
Yeah. Although, I guess you could make that argument with WoW now. As well.
Yeah, but WoW still has a consistent world, like people can still go out and do stuff in it, and you'll still see other people.
Yeah.
With Dragon Nest, it's literally, you have town and dungeons.
Okay.
Everything in between is just walking. Because there's no gathering resources, there's just doing dungeons. And the combat is really, really, really fun, and so you don't mind the grind because, spinning around on your hands, kicking enemies into the air, where you shoot them all in the air with your bow at the same time. Like, that was super duper fun.
Is
You don't
Dragon
care
Nest on
about.
Steam?
It's free to play. I don't think so. It might be. Like if it is, like
It is. Yep,
Play-
it is.
playing as an acrobat is incredible amounts of fun. But eventually, just the grind. I remember like playing for like 8 hours, and then there was an event where you get a bonus if you do this one instance. And so it's like, okay, I'll just go back and do that one instance. And I had played for 8 hours. Since then, I figured, I'll be somewhat stronger because I wasn't even at max level yet. Go back and do that instance, and it was exactly as hard as it had always been. So for all that 8 hours, even though I'd actually leveled up a couple times in that time, I gained nothing. I wasn't any stronger. And it's like, you know what? If I'm going to play this game, even though I enjoy the combat, if I'm not actually getting stronger at all, I can't deal with this.
Look, it has cool art. It is on Steam.
Yeah.
So is Terra, though. I mean, a lot of free-to-play MMOs are now on Steam.
Yeah.
Yeah, the art looks pretty cool.
It's very obviously free to play. Like the graphics are very, very cheap.
Yeah,
Like
it's very cartoony.
very cartoony, very basic. And of course, all of the basic gear looks, really bland compared to the stuff that you can pay for to wear. And also, if you buy gear, like cosmetic stuff, unless you pay a lot of money, it's all temporary.
That's pretty shitty.
Yeah, like
That's the free-to-play model.
Yeah, like, people, I remember, like, when free-to-play was first happening, people were like, you can play games for free! Like, this is awesome! And then you see how much it just destroys the design.
Yeah, you can
'Cause
play
it's like-
you can play games for free, but no game is free, so they're making money some way. How are they making money? Oh, by enticing players with really overpowered stuff.
Yeah, well, it's not really overpowered stuff, it's just they limit what you can do without paying.
Or that, for sure.
Or they just make it so that unless you're paying, you're hampered in some way. Like, Dragon Nest, like, it also had the +1, +2, +3, +4, +5 thing. And the deal was, once you get past +3, if you upgrade, whether it works or not, and all upgrades have a chance to just do nothing. And it will always consume the mats you spend to upgrade. If the
That's
upgrade
lovely.
fails, past level 3, it has a chance to go down in strength. It will level down when you try to upgrade it sometimes. And past level upgrade 6, and keep in mind, I think the max is 15. Past level 6, there's a chance that when you try to upgrade, the item will just be destroyed completely.
That's really shitty.
Yeah. But here's the fun part. You can buy these crystals that are also consumed as mats that prevent that from happening. But here's the thing. If you buy, say, these crystals that make it so the item can't outright break, whether or not the item would have broken on that attempt, the crystals are still consumed. Also, the more expensive the item, and you're only going to be using this on, endgame items anyway, the more crystals are required per attempt to upgrade. And using these crystals doesn't prevent your item from leveling down.
Just breaking.
Yeah, it only prevents it
Yeah.
from breaking. So you can you see how easy it is to spend lots and lots and lots of money.
How much is each crystal?
I don't remember. I didn't look into the pricing. Like, if I don't agree with spending money on something, like, I could see that this was gambling. It's like, I highly encourage, like, Dragon Nest is a fun game. Give it a shot. Do not spend a dime.
Yeah.
Like, have fun with it until you don't have fun with it anymore, and drop it.
So I felt with Mojang's trading card game that they put out, Scrolls. Bless you.
That was actually a cough, sorry.
Oh, it's okay. They had said, oh yeah, I mean, it's not a free-to-play game to begin with. It's actually quite expensive for, I guess, the game that came out. And they're like, oh yeah, no one who pays money will have a leg up on any player who doesn't spend money. Which I was like, oh, that's really cool. But there's a lot of people who are like, oh, well, it's going to be not free to play, and they're going to charge real life currency for a better chance to get cards. Kind of like, I guess, although Hearthstone is free to play, as far as I know, but they do charge money if you want to buy like boosters and stuff. And then Scrolls, before it even came out officially, it was still in beta, quickly became, oh, you put $50 down, you have every card in the game. Where if you want to get every card in the game, normally, I think I played 15 hours and only made like 60 gold. And each pack was like 10 gold each for like a semi-decent pack. So it quickly became, do you want to spend real life cash on this? Although, and I played Hearthstone to the same point. It's like, do you want to spend real cash on this? No. Okay, well, you're never going to be good. And not because your skill's good or bad, but because
you're limited.
You're not going to be able. You're not going to be able to. You're not going to be able to compete. Yeah. Exactly. A toolbox is a good way of putting it. And I love trading card games. I was huge into Magic, which that's also a big time and money sink.
Well, guys, I'm probably going to need to shut the stream down.
No problem.
Yeah.
I'm glad we have the audio issues solved, and I'm glad people came. And it was nice talking to you, Aaron. We'll have to have you on again if you're down.
Yeah, this is fun, guys. So I'm just I'm working away on elements over here.
And next week, I will have a vote up for the next month's topic.
Okay, sounds good.
All right.
Well, thank you both for joining me today, and and for Coby, but he already had to leave, had to go tux shopping or something for a wedding. I think, which I mentioned probably. But anyway, so thanks everyone for showing up on a Saturday.
Of
all
course.
of our viewers and participants. And yeah, we won't do any outro. People know who we are if they're here on Saturday. So yeah.
Yep. All right, guys. Have a good day.
Okay. See you all later.